Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel. And Overwatch 2 Season 9 has been... The spice is actually flowing. It's actually been really good to see all of everybody's kind of different viewpoints on what's going on in the season. And I think it is very fair to say that if you are a DPS-centric player, you guys all know that I do like Soldier 76, you are going to really enjoy this season. And I think, yeah, you probably are going to start shouting from the rooftops going, hey, I think this is pretty good. But anyway, we're going to break this down because we've got loads of feedback from you guys that I want to go over in the video. But I think the first place to start with is this. So Alec Dawson says, a hotfix went out for some Doomfist bugs in Junker Queen melee damage. And he goes on to say, we are continuing to monitor all of the effects of the Season 9 changes. While we want to give some time for the changes to settle in, there are a few outliers that we'll be touching in the near term. He then goes on to say, expect finer tuning of the projectile size for a subset of heroes and some health adjustments. Accuracy numbers are meeting intentions, but some are pushed a bit too far. Thanks all for the feedback on the patch so far. Excited to see how it continues to develop. Now, this is a really interesting point. I think the obvious one is to just go, well, Soldier needs to be nerfed. Hanzo needs to be nerfed, but maybe that's me just hating on Hanzo. But I've literally just come off the back of 3 games playing against the Hanzo. It was a different Hanzo each time, pocketed by a Mercy in every game. And the Hanzo is just deleting the team. It's killing everybody. And yes, sometimes it does feel like you get killed around a corner. And actually, this is because obviously the projectile size is so big and it interacts with your hitbox. Sleep has been one. I've been getting put to sleep by Anna, and it almost feels like lag. You know, it's like, oh, I'm getting put to sleep, but how can she see me? Well, the hitbox is bigger, so it's got, yeah, you're put to sleep. Anyway, the news here is they are looking at projectile sizes, which, of course, everybody's kind of getting a bit confused and saying it's, oh, the hitboxes need looking at. It's not the hitboxes, it's the projectile size. So it's the projectile hitbox, I should say, not the player hitbox. So the projectile size, if that gets tuned down for a couple of heroes, I think that'll probably be better for the game, but we need to wait and see who they're going to change because, of course, they haven't actually named any heroes in all of this. Although I hope this change comes in fast and it isn't something we're waiting until the mid-season patch for, because I think that might be a little bit silly because already you can kind of feel the way some things are going in the game. Hanzo, oh, and Soldier, and Ashe, and oh. I want to give this shout out as well. So this is from Reddit, and the user, the Supreme Omelette, which sounds awesome, says, look at this. This is actually from the gameplay reveal trailer, which I think ML7 and SK made for Blizzard, or maybe did a voiceover for it or something like that. I'm going to be honest, I never watched it, so I didn't pick up on this, but this user did. Look, there's an icon showing that you're affected by the new DPS passive. So you can actually see, oh God, I've actually got the minus 20% healing on me. So this is a cool thing, and I'd imagine this is going to go into the game if they've already made all the art assets for it. It's probably likely that they are playing on the mid-season patch here, the devs, when they recorded this stuff. So yeah, expect that to come pretty soon, and I think that's a pretty good quality of life change. Okay, let's move on to some absolutely spicy comments. Now, these are from you guys from the last video I uploaded to the channel where I was talking about the projectile size, the hitbox interaction, and my early thoughts on Season 9. Now, this comment, it's the most spiciest one, so we're going to go for it, and we're going to throw this one out first because it's quite aggressive, this comment. But, I mean, whatever, we love it. So, Frump says, shitting on people who point out the hitboxes is some of the most elitist, gaslighting, copium guzzling insanity I have seen from the Overwatch community in a while. Jake's tweet was toxic bullshit, and now Stylosa is jumping on the bandwagon. In-game players will be moving, Noda, and we've all been improving hitting moving players to extremely impressive levels since 2016. Now you will get killed from shots you can't see on your screen missing you. Saying it's fine, though, because health has increased is such copium nonsense. Now, let me just talk about this here. So what has happened is the projectile size has got bigger. Everybody has got more health, right? Damage hasn't been increased, but the ability to hit a target has been increased, right? So it's almost like you get an aim buff, right? So you hit the targets more. Now, what does that do? Like I said in my last video, that makes you feel really good because if you're shooting targets and you're getting the hit marker feedback, it feels great. It's like, yeah, this is awesome. So by increasing the health and making your shots easier to land, it actually, in theory, should sort of be the same result as it was before, only this time you're shooting targets more, so it feels better. I think that was the point. The user goes on to say, these changes are made to get new unskilled players to get dopamine hits in their caveman brains from undeserved hit markers, so they buy microtransactions. Now, I mean, I said this in my last video. Yeah, it made my caveman brain feel great because I'm getting that sound effect of hitting the target, so the game feels more fun. You've got to remember, at the end of the day, it's got to feel fun. The problem with Overwatch, and it's always going to be the issue with this, is you've got tank, DPS, and support, and they don't ever seem to be able to bring the game together where all the roles are great. It's either one role is really good and one role is super bad and another role is just sort of middling. And we've gone from, let's be realistic, supports being mega strong, tanks being decent, and DPS being trash, to now suddenly DPS are like dictating the fights. They're amazingly good. Tanks, I mean, dive tanks are doing really well at the moment, but tanks are sort of like not great. If you're like a Reinhardt main, you're just going to get farmed. But then you look at support, and they've gone from like being top dogs to sort of middling experience. And this is the problem with Overwatch. And you've got a lot of players that are either just support mains, tank mains, or DPS mains, and it's very tribal. So it's like, you've nerfed us, we hate the game now, and they go crazy. Anyway, this comment goes on to say, worse, the changes have not been added with proper balance tuning. Pointing out that hitboxes enabling hits that should not be hits is a problem is absolutely valid criticism, and it's really shitty seeing influential voices in the community degrading people who raise it. Now, I'll address this from my perspective of the video I made yesterday, because what I was trying to show there is when you're point blank on a model and you're shooting at like the Tracer or the Ashe or whatever it was I used in the video, it does look ridiculous, right? Because, yeah, you're not actually hitting them, but you're hitting their hitbox. You're not hitting their model, but you're hitting the hitbox. And it's easy to do that because your projectile size is now bigger. But you could still do this back in Season 8, right? It still looked as extreme if you walked up to a model at point blank. The argument is, you never really do that in Overwatch. You never really point blank at somebody shooting at them. But I get, yes, it is easier to hit. But this is meant to be offset by the fact you've got more health now. So it's like you get hit more, but you've got a chance to hit them more. Yeah, but I think the good point here is you do get hit round corners. I mean, like I said earlier, I get put to sleep all the time, and I feel like, what is going on here? I'm actually not even in that Anna's view, but I've been put to sleep because, yeah, maybe the projectile size is a bit too big. But maybe that's what they're going to address. But anyway, this is a good comment. Like I always say, guys, don't just go along with everything I say in videos. Try and give your own point. It's good stuff. Let's move on. Gabriel says they gave DPS a mini Annonade as a passive. Of course, tanking feels like shit. Yeah. I think so the thing with tanking is, as again, I've played more games, and yeah, the recent video I made was like, pretty much early impressions of the season, as early as they could be. You know, it's not like I'd be making a video going, this is the best update ever, and this is why the moment the update goes out, because how would you even do that? You ain't even played the goddamn update, so it's going to take time, and people's views will change. Now, at the moment, dive tanks feel really good, right? So Winston is doing really, really well, unless you've got a Zen on your team. If Zen's on your team and the Zen just discords the Winston, it can be quite painful for Winston. There isn't a Zen, well, Winston can get quite a bit of value, and he can actually be okay against the Zen anyway. But yeah, Zen is pretty strong against him. Of course, this is with DPS just mowing him down. Like I said earlier, well, I guess not earlier, but in my other video, the thing with tanks now is if you just brain dead DPS attack the tank, it's so much more value than it was before, because you're preventing them getting 20%. Well, it's now minus 20% healing on them, and that is like absolutely huge. Dive tanks feel okay. I just want to kind of throw that out now. They feel like they're playable. Anything that isn't a dive tank feels absolutely garbage, unless it's Sigma and potentially Ramatra, because it does feel satisfying with Ramatra with the projectile size increase on his primary fire. But he's got a barrier, so he's got a way of like not taking damage on his person. Other tanks, when you look at like a Roadhog or you look at an Orisa, I don't think they're feeling too great at the moment. Definitely Orisa's better than Roadhog, I'd say. But I think overall tanking does feel terrible because you are a massive punching bag. Like you're just going to get attacked, and it depends on your DPS like attacking the enemy's tank, right? So you can attack that tank and get more value from it, and their supports don't get as much healing. But if you are getting attacked, then you depend on your support keeping you alive, or getting attacked by the enemy DPS, that is. It's really difficult. And here's the thing. Your support cannot keep you alive. This is another issue, I think, that's with this game at the moment, is not a lot of people respect line of sight. They just literally run out into the open and just get absolutely obliterated. And then they're like, where's my healing? Now, that's no fault of the players, because the game's been like that for years, right? You know, you sort of known, okay, I'm going to get loads of healing pumped into me, or there's going to be a BAP immortality field or whatever chucked on me, I'm going to be fine. And even back in Overwatch 1 days, you had another tank who could help you absorb the damage. But now it's like you're just going to get hammered, and you need to play with line of sight. You cannot just stand out in the open and get farmed. But I do agree, tanking is in a pretty bad place right now. In my opinion, DPS has gained so much from this update and support feels like shite when healing the team, then tank gets rolled by a single DPS or DPSing support. All in all, this encourages support to the DPS still. Tank just feels like survival since you have more health, and DPS, as said, it's easy baby proofed pickings for anyone, no skills needed. Yeah, you know, I think the takeaway from this here would be support. The idea that support isn't about healing, really. And I think it's very clear what's happening with the game is it's being pushed more in the direction of just attack the enemy, just shoot the enemy. You know, Anna's being thrown around quite a bit as well. Like, if it took 3 shots to kill a target with Anna before, now it takes 4. So you have to land another shot. So the argument goes, well, you have to hit another shot. That takes a bit more skill, right? But yeah, the thing is here, Anna and DPS, well, and support, sorry, you are, in sort of air quotes, going to get more value if you're looking to add to the damage of your team and then do supplementary healing as required. And again, this is a massive change, right? Because it's not like, let's just heal and keep the tanks alive and let's heal and keep the supports alive. It's like, wait a minute, that DPS is like focusing down our tank. Somebody needs to do something about that. And actually, our supports can't even save the tank. It's just going to die. Now, is that tank getting punished for bad positioning? I don't know, maybe. Maybe this is why dive tanks are seeing a bit more power at the moment, because they can reposition if they're caught out in a bad position. Whereas someone like Roadhog, well, you're just going to get punished if you're out in the open. Yeah, again, it's highly complicated, but a good comment, this one. Unfortunately, they can't fix or patch my teammates' selfishness or stupidity. And yeah, I mean, this is always going to be the case, right? You can't fix people. They are doing everything in their power to avoid the 6v6 conversation. Now, here's the thing, right? I've always avoided this conversation. In fact, I've just said things in the past like, yeah, 5v5, whatever. It makes the game more of an FPS game. It's fine, whatever. You know, it's sad that we don't have tank duos, and, you know, it makes the game less tactical. It moves it more away from being a MOBA into being more of an FPS game. Now, we know that Blizzard wanted this to be more of an FPS game with the launch of Overwatch 2. And it feels like this patch they've given us now is basically the patch they wanted to give us when the game launched. And then it would have felt absolutely radically different. Like, can you imagine going from Overwatch 1 to what we've got now? It would have been like, what is this? It is no longer Overwatch. It is this sort of deathmatch brawler hero thing. And we're running around just like with DPS going wild. But the 6v6 conversation, is this something that needs to be spoken about? Will it ever come back to the game? I mean, if I was a betting man, and I'm absolutely not, but if I was, I don't think it will ever come back to the game. Simply because Overwatch 2, the core principle of it is 5v5. I think 6v6, for that to even come back or be considered, they'd have to, like, the main developers, the lead developers of the game would have to be fired or move on to different projects or whatever for them to even sort of consider this. But it is interesting, and it is a point we need to bring up, because here's the other thing as well, and this is desperately sad. We cannot go back and play Overwatch 1. We cannot go and go, let's try Overwatch 1 and see how it plays in this day and age. We just can't do that. So it's almost like we'll never know. And sometimes we can look back with a bit of rose-tinted glasses and go, okay, well, 6v6 was awesome and this and that. But was it really? But again, we can't test it because we've played through Overwatch 2's life up until now, and we can't just directly compare it back. Yeah, it's a complicated one. This is a really cool comment, because this is great. This is actually awesome, and I've been suffering from this today. So, at 2 minutes and 41 seconds into the video, it being more forgiving also means our own deaths will be more unforgiving. Hanzo's arrows already had space, time, fabric, bending qualities, and this change only increases that capacity. Yes. Now, this is something I totally didn't consider, because it's easier for you to hit targets. It's easier for them to hit targets. If they are a Hanzo or any other DPS and they've got a Mercy pocket, you will die and you will smash your keyboard in. I played a round on Stylosa and got absolutely hammered by Hanzo. This Hanzo was just spamming arrows and just killing everyone, and it was so frustrating. It's got to be easier to land the arrows, right? And I'm suffering from that. So I'm going from, yeah, this is great, I get to shoot the enemy more, to just actually, if you can get buffed up to a point where you can just one-shot targets, it's actually worse now because they can land the shots easier. Yeah, there's 2 ways of looking at it, isn't there? It's great. And as you can see, there's had 25 comments to it. Replies to it, I should say, to this comment. Good comment, though. It is one to think about, isn't it? I can see tank and support leaving to play DPS. Get ready for 30-minute wait time again. Potentially, yeah. You know, Overwatch 2, throughout its lifespan so far, it has had patches that have buffed certain roles, right? So you've got, oh, look, there's a big support patch for whatever season, right? Okay, everyone wants to play support, or people start to work out support becomes like the more dominant role. Maybe they want to play that. They don't really want to play tank because they're getting annoyed that maybe they're getting farmed, and so they play other roles. I think this is kind of just like the ebb and flow of the game, and it seems to be what Blizzard are doing almost intentionally, where, like I've said, this season they've just gone, right, DPS, get out there and have some fun, and they've just buffed the DPS. So I don't know. This one is great. They found a way to punish the tanks for support being broken. The mad lads did it. It's like, yeah, let's punish the tanks because support was actually broken. And the further we go back with this, we can just keep going back and back and back and back. And ultimately, we end up with the addition of Ana back in 2016. When Anti-Nade was brought into the game, it was almost like, you know, they had such a refusal to do anything to Anti-Nade. It was just making your life hell as a tank. Even right now, right up into Season 8 of Overwatch. And then going into Season 9, they've decided to just go, well, what happens if we basically buff the DPS, kind of screw support a bit, because they're going to really suffer because DPS is now applying minus 20% healing to everyone. And then tanks will just let them get on with it. Funny comment, though. As a support main, I can really feel the effect the healing debuff is having on everything. Also, without an indicator that the DPS passive is active, you can be healing someone and it takes a moment to register why they're not gaining health as fast as you're used to. Yeah, good point. Like, I think and I hope that the thing I showed at the top of the video is going to be added to the game fairly soon. So you'll be able, well, I guess the user, from your perspective, you'll be able to see if you're affected from it. But what about showing your team? Maybe we need to glow or something. But again, Overwatch has already got loads of visual clutter. If we start making players glow random colors because they've been shot by a DPS, just going to look ridiculous. So I'm not too sure how they do this. Maybe they just, it's a thing. Actually, to be honest, if they add the PvE unit frames, which I think they actually said they might do, they could add it to that, which would make it better. Then everyone could see who's affected by what, and that would really help support. So yeah, it is a good suggestion. The other thing though here is like the healing deep, like, so there are support that are, at the moment, if you play Zen, if you play Bap, if you play Ana, you're going to have a great time as support. Especially Zen, because you're just doing Zen things and you're killing the enemy. It's a lot easier to land your primary and secondary fire now. So it just feels fun, right? It feels better. But you're not actually, like, healing the team like you might have been before. But Zen has not really been meta for a long, long time in Overwatch. Yeah, it's been useful. But, you know, we've been looking at, like, Kiri, Ana, you know, that kind of thing being mega, mega strong for a long, long time. And throw Bap into that as well. And Mercy also being quite powerful. So it's almost like Blizzard are basically telling support to go out there and attack the enemy instead of healing their team. But I completely get this feeling of frustration, because there's nothing worse where if you're just unloading all of your stuff into a tank or even into a DPS and they just die. And it's like, well, they've only died because they've been attacked and they're now, you know, they now have like 20% less healing going into them. And it's just, yeah, I completely understand this. This made me laugh. My accuracy has risen by about 10% on average. Ridiculous change. Now, there is something you can do here. You can actually go back and look at your stats from a previous Overwatch 2 season if you've played comparable games and comparable heroes, and take a look, especially if it's DPS. I can guarantee you would have done more damage as DPS because targets have got more health, and guess what? You can hit them easier now because your projectile size is bigger. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. Yeah, this is the state of Overwatch 2 at the moment. There's going to be changes coming to this. There's going to be Blizzard are obviously looking at it. Alex says that they're going to make changes. They're going to try and fine-tune things, but it is a massive shake-up, and we're still dealing with the fallout from this and what this actually means for the game. But, you know, the issue ultimately, it always falls down to this. Blizzard want more people to play the game. Blizzard want people to be more engaged with the game. Blizzard want people to have a reason to come back to the game. And we've not even spoken about the competitive changes in this video, which I do think are better. It is definitely much better getting information as to why you've lost a ton of rank after a game or why you've gained a ton of rank after a game. That's like really good information. But yeah, it is, the game's up in the air at the moment. If you're a DPS player like me, you're going to really enjoy it. If you're a tank player, like I don't really view myself as a DPS player. I have always tried to play all of the roles. Yeah, I play them in like, sort of waves. I don't just sit there and I'm like playing DPS one game, tank next game, support the next game. I'll have them like maybe even might be a month period, 2 month period where I'm just playing support, and then maybe I'll just go and play tank, and then maybe I'll just play DPS. I don't really bounce around the roles in a season. I just tend to play one or the other. And I just sort of settle into it and see what's happening. Maybe that's the type of player Blizzard want now. You know, I don't know. I really, really don't know. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I expect more spicy juice. And, yeah, let's see what happens to the game going forward. Catch you on the next one. See you soon.